If you saw the title and clicked on the video, I'm sure you know exactly what this is, so let's get straight into it. To start it off, in 1995, 5 sets of brothers competed in the Cup Series. The sibling duos of Kenny and Rusty Wallace, Bobby and Terry Labonte, Jeff and Todd Bodine, Darrell and Michael Waltrip, as well as Jeff and Ward Burton, all occupied the same track for multiple races throughout 1998, meaning nearly 25% of the field in those races were brothers. Tony Stewart won 7 Daytona Xfinity races and 9 tries over the course of 9 years. Beginning in 2005, Tony Stewart would participate in the season-opening Daytona Xfinity Series race for the next 9 seasons in a row, starting off with a win in 2005, followed up with another win in 2006. Yet in 2007 he'd struggle with the handling of the car all day, eventually crossing the line in 8th, and in 2008, he'd find his way back to victory lane with his 3rd win in 4 years at the track. Again in 2009, Stewart would beat Kyle Busch to the line for another win, returning the next season in 2010 to put up his 3rd win in a row there. However, his next win during the 2011 race would be his most exciting yet, with even the announcers not knowing who won.
Bowyer takes the lead and pulls up and at the stripe. It's Bowyer! Stewart! I thought it was Bowyer, but Tony Stewart does it!
Stewart won by 7 1,000ths of a second, but his quest at 5 in a row at the Speedway next year would be dashed by getting squeezed into the fence with a massive run going for the win, eventually setting off a pileup that let the 11th place driver entering the corner win the race. One more time in 2013, Tony Stewart suited up for this event, seeing him bring home his 7th win in 9 attempts at the track. Darrell Waltrip has raced in the same NASCAR race as Kyle Busch. Back in the early 2000s while Darrell Waltrip was broadcasting, he'd make a few NASCAR Truck Series starts from the years of 2002 through 2005. However, in 2006 he'd take the step up to the Busch Series for one final NASCAR start, driving in the '99 Aaron's Dream Machine for his brother Michael Waltrip at Martinsville. In the race he'd share the track with future Cup legends, consisting of Kevin Harvick, Carl Edwards, Kyle Busch and even Denny Hamlin, later going on to finish the race in 28th position on the lead lap. Mark Martin raced for 3 powerhouse teams during his time in the sport. Mark Martin had spent nearly 2 decades until he was 47 years old, driving the 6 for powerhouse team Roush Racing, until he was ready to take a step back and do part-time racing in 2007, choosing to drive the 01 for Ginn Racing, as well as the 8 for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated in 2008. However, his impressive performances in both of these cars caught the eye of the next powerhouse team in Hendrick Motorsports, who were able to get him to come back to full-time racing for his age 50 season to chase a championship, where he'd miraculously win 5 races and finish 2nd in the standings to his now 4-time champion teammate Jimmy Johnson. Martin would continue in this ride for 2 more seasons after that, before returning back to part-time racing in 2012 and 2013 for Michael Waltrip Racing. But once Denny Hamlin was sidelined after suffering an injury during the Auto Club race in 2013 due to crashing out going for the win, 3rd powerhouse team owner Joe Gibbs would ask Martin to drive the 11 in a one-off at Martinsville the next week, bringing it home in 10th place. Kasey Kahne has never finished worse than 2nd in the Truck Series. Cup drivers dropping down to the lower series is nothing new in NASCAR, in fact it's always been quite common, but none of them have had quite the success rate like Kasey Kahne's in the Truck Series. Kane made his debut during the final 2 events of the truck season in 2004, winning at both Homestead and Darlington, until not racing for the next 6 years. He'd return at the Truck Series debut race at Pocono, leading 17 laps and finishing 2nd to Elliot Sadler, the worst finish he'd ever have in the series. As after this, Kane would go on to win at Darlington in 2011 and Rockingham in 2012, before taking a 3-year hiatus and returning to best Eric Jones by 5 1,000ths of a second at Charlotte in his final truck race. Chase Elliott won a race crossing the line in 3rd. In 2022 at Pocono, Chase Elliott would end his day in a respectable 3rd place, crossing the line behind Joe Gibbs Racing teammates Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch, until each of them would be disqualified from the race after NASCAR found unapproved tape on their cars, specifically on the front ahead of the wheel openings, leading to the first disqualification of a Cup Series winner in over 60 years, and handing the race win to the guy who finished in 3rd place, Chase Elliott. NASCAR had a solar eclipse during a practice session. In 2023 during a practice session for the Fall Las Vegas playoff race, a partial solar eclipse set in on the speedway at around 9:30 in the morning when NASCAR had a practice scheduled. Many drivers would put on the special glasses used during a solar eclipse to view this, and NASCAR would even send the cars out for practice, using the lights at nearly 10 a.m. Bubba Wallace in the 6th car finished in 6th place during 5 straight races in 2017. Driving in his 3rd season for Jack Roush and Roush Fenway in the Xfinity Series, Bubba Wallace kicked off the 2nd race of the season with a 6th place run, continuing to finish in that exact same position all the way until he'd crash out of the 7th race of the year at Bristol. And if you're wondering, he finished 6th the very next week after. Terry Labonte won his first and last race at the same track. Hall of Famer Terry Labonte earned his first NASCAR win at the age of 23 in 1980, coming at Darlington Raceway. And after 23 years with a championship sandwiched in between, and 20 more victories, he'd return back to the track in 2003 at the age of 46 to bring home his 22nd and final career NASCAR win. NASCAR has only had one co-driver in its history. Way back in 1953, Tim Flock created a publicity stunt for 8 races and brought on co-driver Jocko Flocko to race alongside him in the car. The only issue is Jocko was a monkey, so for 8 races in a specially designed suit and chair, a NASCAR driver rode with a monkey. And yes, of course the duo went to victory lane, coming at a Grand National race in Hickory. The downfall of Jocko Flocko occurred during the Rally 300, with Tim Flock saying, "Back then the cars had a trap door that we could pull open with a chain to check our tire wear. Jocko got loose from his seat and stuck his head through the trap door and went berserk." Listen, it was hard enough to drive those heavy old cars back then under normal circumstances, but with a crazed monkey clawing at you at the same time, it becomes nearly impossible. I had to come into the pits to put him out and ended up in 3rd. The pit stop cost me 2nd place and a $600 difference in my paycheck. Jocko would be retired immediately after that race. Dale Earnhardt never lost a Daytona qualifying race in the 1990s. Dale Earnhardt is regarded as the greatest superspeedway driver in NASCAR history, and the streak he went on during the 90s at Daytona only added on to his legacy. Starting with the 1990 Daytona Twin 125, Dale Earnhardt won his next 10 qualifying races in a row, through multiple iterations of aero packages and the ever-changing landscape of NASCAR in the 90s. Not once through the decade was anyone able to beat him, eventually ending his streak with an 11th place run in 2000. Only 4 NASCAR champions since 2000 have been driving an odd-numbered car. The 4 drivers who have managed this include the Roush duo of Matt Kenseth and Kurt Busch in 2003 and 2004 driving the 17 and 97, as well as the Hendrick duo of Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson in 2020 and 2021 driving the 9 and the 5 car. The next fact is, you should subscribe to I Have 40 Wins. It's free, and if you don't like it, you can simply unsubscribe. Mike Skinner has the most laps led without a Cup Series win. After driving the 3 and 44 Truck Series races during its inception in the mid-90s, with 16 wins to his name, Richard Childress would choose to call up Mike Skinner to drive as a teammate to Dale Earnhardt ahead of the 1997 season. Skinner would lead 611 laps over the course of his first 3 seasons, yet never managed to find victory lane. But in the 4th race of 2000, it seemed like all that was going to change, as Skinner was running away with the win as a dominant car with 20 to go until his engine expired.
These guys don't give a chance, and Earnhardt, Skinner is off the pace. Skinner is off the pace.
This would be the closest Skinner ever came to earning a NASCAR Cup Series victory, and once it was all said and done, he'd wrap up his career with 1,029 laps led, but 0 Cup Series wins. Greg Biffle's first full-time Cup season was at the age of 33. After 5 years in Roush's pipeline driving in the Truck and Busch Series, where he captured a championship in both, Greg Biffle would be called up to the Cup Series in 2003 at 33 years old, going on to drive the 16 car for the next 14 seasons until his retirement in 2016. Landon Cassill has multiple NASCAR championship rings. Landon Cassill was a development driver for Hendrick Motorsports and Junior Motorsports for a few seasons in the late 2000s, eventually falling out of the rides due to sponsorship issues. However, Hendrick would keep him around as a test driver to the 48 car of Jimmy Johnson for multiple seasons of his prime, and as a valued member of their team as a test driver, he'd earned multiple championship rings. Nick Sanchez led more laps than the scheduled distance of a race, yet finished in 16th place. During the 5th race of the 2023 season at Texas Motor Speedway, Truck Series rookie Nick Sanchez dominated the race, leading every lap but 3 as the field went into overtime. However, once Nick Sanchez took the white flag, to lead his 168th of the 167 scheduled laps, he'd get loose fighting Zane Smith for the win, eventually getting wrecked out of the race in the process. Talladega Superspeedway has the steepest banking in NASCAR, seeing the corners be banked at a whopping 33 degrees, making it hard to even walk up the track in the corners, and 2 degrees higher than the second place track in Daytona. Daniel Hemric won his first NASCAR race and a championship on the same night. Daniel Hemric started and raced in 207 NASCAR events dating back to 2013 and never once managed to win a race. However, after a consistent season driving the 18 car for Joe Gibbs Racing in the Xfinity Series, he found himself in the Final Four with no wins, having a chance to do what Matt Crafton did back in 2019 by winning a championship with no wins. But instead of this, on the final corner of the race he'd take matters into his own hands to make an aggressive pass on championship opponent Austin Cindric for both his first win and the championship. JD McDuffy never finished on the lead lap in NASCAR. Across 653 NASCAR starts, spanning from 1963 to 1991, JD McDuffy collected 106 top 10 finishes, yet never once was able to bring the car home on the lead lap. In 2013, a loose cable from Fox caused damage to multiple cars during a race. In the middle of a crown jewel event of NASCAR, the 2013 Coca-Cola 600, the longest race on the schedule, disaster occurred when a Fox camera line snapped above the tri-oval just past the quarter mark of the race. The cable whipped around the racetrack and would damage many cars, with NASCAR officials tallying up over 15 possible cars with damage, most notable being race leader Kyle Busch, who would have his right side shredded behind his wheel. NASCAR was forced to do something that they rarely do, and allowed teams who were damaged by the cable to repair their cars under the red flag. NASCAR had a mid-race snow delay. During the 2006 Spring Bristol Busch Series race, NASCAR would throw a yellow just past lap 30 in the event for heavy snow that began falling on the speedway. Teams would park their cars while it snowed, and proceeded to play in the snow under the red flag along with the fans, seeing many fans attempt to hit the cars with snowballs.
When are they going to run out of ammo?
It's quit snowing, the sun's out, and they're still incoming.
They're pelleting the Aaron's Dream Machine.
You're doing a great job, though. This is like the movie Gladiator.
Jeremy Clements won his first NASCAR race after spinning out coming to the white flag. Jeremy Clements had spent 256 starts driving in the NASCAR Xfinity Series before the series went to Road America in the middle of the 2017 season. And after his team played the tire strategy out perfectly during the race, the underdog driver was in prime position with fresh tires to track down leader Matt Tifft, seeing him eventually run him down entering the final corner coming to the white flag, but driving in way too deep and spinning into him. Clements would get the car rolling again before third place got to him, and before Matt Tifft could also get his car rolling, allowing Clements to drive to his first career victory. Nearly 1/5 of the NASCAR Cup Series schedule is road courses, with them making up 19% of the schedule in 2025. Ty Gibbs has more top 5s in his NASCAR career at Daytona than Kyle Larson. 1 beats 0, folks. Bobby Labonte ran more races after his final win than before it. In between his first win during the 1995 Coca-Cola 600 and his last career win at the 2003 finale at Homestead, there were 297 races that passed, compared to the 432 races he'd run from 2003 all the way until he'd hang up his helmet in 2016. Former childhood star and actor Frankie Muniz competes full-time in the NASCAR Truck Series for Rayum Brothers Racing in the 33, and will be shooting a Malcolm in the Middle revival in the middle of the season. Someone stole a pace car once in Talladega. In 1986 at Talladega Superspeedway, just prior to the race, a 20-year-old fan by the name of Darren Crowder stole the red pace car, and proceeded to take it for a joyride around the track before being apprehended by track officials after a barricade was set up to stop him. He'd be taken to jail and held on a $10,000 bond while facing a list of charges that included unauthorized use of a vehicle and resisting arrest, among others. He'd later get transferred into a psychiatric hospital for evaluation. However, no jail sentences would be given out to him. 2024 was the first time NASCAR raced in wet weather conditions on an oval during a points-paying race. Prior to the 2024 Spring Richmond race taking green, the track was hit by a rain shower delaying the start. However, thanks to new tires allowing stock cars to race on a damp track, they'd be able to start this race earlier while the track was still slightly wet. This would later be used at New Hampshire in the summer, which allowed them to finish the race with just enough daylight before the darkness set in on the speedway, after a rain shower in the middle portions of the event forced them to delay the race for hours. NASCAR races on 2 tracks that were used on their original schedule in 1949. The original NASCAR schedule consisted of 8 races, 2 of which would fall at the venues of Martinsville Speedway in Virginia and North Wilkesboro Speedway in North Carolina. Martinsville since 1949 through 2025 has never once left the Cup Series schedule, being the only track to do so. However, North Wilkesboro would lose this honor following 1996, after bigger markets would suck up their race dates, leaving the venue to sit in ruins for nearly 30 years. A few attempts would be made at trying to restore the track's glory over the years, but nothing would stick, until one more push assisted by the aid of Dale Jr., iRacing, and the government helped lead the track into reopening, this time for good, hosting every NASCAR All-Star race since 2023, and even multiple points-paying truck races. The last 2 caution-free NASCAR Cup Series races have came at Talladega. Back in 2001 during the Talladega 500, the field went caution-free for the entire race, and shockingly at the very same track just 1 year later in 2002, they'd managed to go green flag to flag for 188 laps, somehow escaping Talladega without a massive pileup or a single incident in the era of restrictor plate racing. And last but not least, both races in 2017 at Phoenix saw NASCAR drivers earn their final career wins. As a spring race saw 17-year veteran Ryan Newman earn his 18th and final career win on an overtime restart, and in the fall the track also provided 18-year veteran Matt Kenseth his 39th and final career win, taking the lead from Chase Elliot late in the event. That's all for this video. If you liked it, make sure to subscribe, and also if you have any random NASCAR facts, drop them in the comments.
12 is going to win this race. I don't believe they can catch him back to the line.
He's going to have to make it wide.
Pedal, baby,
He's going
pedal.
to have to make it wide.
It's the Boilermaker, Ryan Newman. Ryan Newman, Roger Penske win the Daytona 500.